Hey there, welcome to Synth Seeker. My name is Luke. This is going to be a really quick video. I want to talk about the modular, basically. If you watch me through Jamuary, if you watch any of the Jamuary streams, where I streamed every day for a month, basically building up Berlin School / Prague sort of performance over the course of January, and I got back into modular at the end of the year. And so I wanted to build a hybrid system that basically use the modular for Plucks, basically, and use other synths like the Matriarch and the Sub 37 and a few others to be the sort of bass or melodic stuff. I'm also using the Ableton push here, and it's basically all in the box. And it's a hybrid system that sort of incorporates everything here. And I had some questions about the modular. My use of modular is definitely my own use of modular. Some conventions I follow, some conventions I don't. And I just wanted to make a brief video for the people who are asking for details on how I set up my modular and things like that. This is by no means, not by all means, by no means is this a best practice video. In anything artistic, it's you do what works for you. But I'm just going to cover what's in the module, how it's routed, why, how it connects to the rest of the system, and really that's about it. So I just wanted to cover like what's important to me as far as the modular is concerned, okay? And try and give you it in a relatively short amount of time, okay? So when it comes to modular, we'll just jump right in. All right. When it comes to using a modular, I was really into modular a long time ago. For many years, I ended up getting out of it. Now I'm sort of fallen back into it. Why? I like the idea of, I like modular synthesis, don't get me wrong. What got me out of it was tuning issues, inconsistencies in the standard across from module to module. Like you could say that the idiosyncrasies of any given module, its quirks, are what make it special. And I agree. But I also like things that say, when they're like, this is going to be, from 0 volts to 5 volts is the range of this modulation, right? Well, it's actually close to 0 volts through close to 5 volts, and depending on the components in any given module, they can vary, et cetera, et cetera. And that bugs me. I have serious obsessive compulsive, issues around things that give a specification and then don't adhere closely to that specification, which does not give me any right to be upset or angry about that stuff. And I'm not angry about it, but it can be frustrating. And so that's what eventually got me out of modular, was that I was happier working in the box because precision was way higher when you're working in the digital domain, or when you're at least when you're not using Eurorack modular stuff. But I've got back in, and I've alleviated some of that problem by just using digital oscillators, and being really picky about the components I go for. Anyway, so that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about what's in this thing. Now, I am going to let's turn it on a little bit. Let's bring it up a bit. So I'm controlling everything runs through Ableton, so I'm just bringing it up in the mix here. I'm just going to let that run in the background. I'm going to talk over it because I hate talking over silence. So what's in this modular? So at the end of the day, the modular gets its clock from Ableton. All right, this little module over here is the ML2. All right, the missing link 2. And what it does is basically it gets on the Wi-Fi network and listens to the Ableton link protocol. And so if I change the tempo there, it'll change in Ableton. If I change it in Ableton, it'll change in the modular. It's super handy, and it sends out clock and reset. All right. Now, I will have a few things that I want my modular to do. I want this to be a Pluck machine, so I want it to be able to make Berlin School Plucks of, a fairly broad array of timbres. And I want it to have 2 voices, and maybe a tiny bit of rhythm. All right. So to that end, inside here are some oscillator. A voice consists of a sequencer, some oscillators, a filter, a mixer for those oscillators, and then it goes out of the, it leaves the modular and goes over into an audio interface. That interface runs us into Ableton, and that's basically how it happens. Okay, I'm not playing the modular. I'm not treating it like a playable synthesizer. I'm letting the modular be the modular. My control nodes, and I'll talk about those, are within and around the sequencer itself, and within and around the oscillators and filter, etc. Okay, but anyway, so we've got clock that integrates effectively the modular with the rest of my gear. All right, we take this clock and we take the reset signals and we mult them out. These white cables are 3 sets of clock. These black ones are 3 sets of reset, right? And this is the first bit of weirdness. I send those cables back into the modular because I don't repatch while I'm performing, okay? I build a patch and generally don't change it. I perform using controls, but I'm not going to be performing by repatching stuff. Some people are into that. I am not. And what I do is, because I like things to be clear, like clear as in clean, and get stuff out of the way, I don't want any of my controls to have like a nest of wires over them, or at least not as much as I can. I try and minimize it as much as I can. What I tend to do is I send the infrastructure signals, things like clock, things, things that I'm going to patch when I design the patch, and then not change. And I send them back and they run behind everything to where they need to go. All right. So here are 3 clocks and 3 resets. One set of clock and reset comes out of this little gap, goes into the Metroplex. So the Metroplex is receiving clock and reset information through that. All right. There are gaps between all of the modules of various sizes, and that's to give me access to bring cables in and out, but also to give myself a little more space. I've got these giant hands. Panels are small, knobs are small, and I don't want to have to reach in through cables, but I also don't want to bump things when I'm adjusting, right? So I space things out a bit. Does it mean that I haven't used my HP efficiently? Probably, certainly, but that's okay, right? Now, so I send my infrastructure in, it goes to where it needs to go, clock and things like that, pops out here. This is an example of a voice from here over, all right? I've got a sequencer, I'm using this IntelliGel Metroplex, all right? It's an excellent sequencer. I'm not gonna do module reviews here in this video, or really ever. I'll talk about modules I like from time to time. I like this sequencer, and I'm using it as a single voice right now. So it gets its clock, it gets its reset, it sends its pitch out, and I mult that pitch, and I have 3 oscillators. I like the East Coast Mini-Moog style voicing. So I have 1, 2, 3 oscillators here, 2 braids, and vert it or legio, okay? And they're running together, East Coast style, into a mixer, and the output of that mixer is running into a filter, all right? This little low-pass gate filter. We'll get to that. But that way I can set pretty distinct timbres on my oscillators and mix what I want. So if we listen to what we're hearing here, that's this wavetable. We'll bring it out. Right? This is our synced sawtooth. And then this is the vert itter. All right. And so, much like on a Mini-Moog, I mix and match. All right. Bring that back down. So, that's sort of my philosophy behind voicing for Berlin School Plucks in my modular. All right, so that's where I'm at this point. It leaves the mixer, goes into the filter. I have a lot of filters sitting on the shelf in the closet. Right now, I'm playing with these Dofer low-pass gates, these Factoral gates. I'm liking these. Like I said, this is a Pluck machine, and picked these up last week, and I'm experimenting with them now. And I like them. They're fine. So I'm not demoing modules here, but give you a little variation just to keep your ears happy. Resonance back down. Like I said, giant hands, tiny knobs. All right, bring that back down. So effectively, that's a voice for me. So we've got clock and reset coming from the link network, driving the sequencer. The sequencer's got a pitch coming out, being split across 3 oscillators. These oscillators can be mixed. They can have whatever sounds they want to have. These are all digital oscillators because I never ever want to screw with tuning. So once they're in tune, they're pretty much stay in tune. Runs into a mixer East Coast style, runs into a filter East Coast style. It's not a Moog ladder filter, but we're playing with this low pass gate right now. I'll play with others. And then it runs out, and it literally runs out directly into the audio interface. And this audio interface has enough headroom that I don't have to do any conversion. So I don't have to worry about the fact that it's a really high voltage signal or anything like that. It just goes in there. I can deal with the gain as needed. And that goes into Ableton. And then everything in Ableton is all the processing you hear. Okay. So any delay, there's the delay off. So there's basically the raw signal coming from the modular. If we bring the reverb back, bring the echo back, and that's how I work out my Berlin School Pluck voices. So that's the first voice. Now, if I switch hands, I basically duplicated that voice again. A Metropolis, only 2 oscillators right now, but still both braids. I've got gap for another one. But we're going the opposite direction now. We're taking our pitch, we're multing it out, running it into 2 oscillators. Those are going to a mixer that I can manipulate, and then into a filter, and then again out to the system there. So that is basically the whole voice. And the way I manipulate it is by playing with my sequences, right? And I've got control nodes here I can mess with, and I've got control nodes here. These little voltage offsets are going into the sequencer, and then I can use these knobs as control knobs. Really, and that is the whole point, all right? So that's it in a nutshell. There's a little rhythm here thing down on the end. I'm not going to talk about that right now. I've got a couple plats that are doing kick and hi-hat. And there's a completely separate video on this sort of mixing array over here for taking gates out of the system. I'm using a steppy and some clocks off of the Metropolis, being able to mix them all together using switches and then feed the plats. Mix them. I'm using a little Abacus / Maths clone and then running it again into the modular. But that is the Berlin School Pluck modular in a nutshell. And there's a link in the description to the modular grid layout of this current system. Not that I recommend it to anyone. This is not an efficient system by far, at all in any way, neither in space nor money. But it works for me, and I like what I can get out of it. So, all right. Hope this was useful, and thanks for your time. And you have been watching Synth Seeker. Have a great day.